From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, Halloween is on the horizon.
Yes.
I know you brought your bag of tricks and treats with you into the plush studios today. Let's see, the Minnesota Twins are on the blocks. Do you have any good news for the viewers about who might buy that MLB team that I'm hearing is valued at roughly $1.4, $1.5 billion?
Yeah, boy, nobody you or I know, that's for sure.
We're not in that universe.
No, we don't roll with that type. That's a great question, and you've heard, various names thrown out there, particularly folks who own teams right now in this market. Namely Ziggy Wilf and the Wilf family. Why not? They tend to spend money. That's what you want, right? You want somebody that has some deep pockets.
And they do it in a cap league, the NFL.
No question. And there's no cap in baseball, but maybe that'll scare people away. No cap, because then you're competing with teams that have no cap, i.e. your Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets, whoever. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine beyond that. I know that you think Craig Leopold might be a good fit. I mean, there's another guy that not afraid to spend.
No, we saw it with Zach Parise and Ryan Suter. He's driven to win. Now they haven't gotten a cup, but the effort's there. And I certainly think he's got the deep pockets. He's worth $3.6 billion, according to my financial sources on Wall Street. I think anything's in play. Here's what I do know. Major League Baseball teams don't go on the market very often.
Right.
So if you got to be a billionaire or a corporation in some cases. If this is something that piques your interest, this is a good get because you don't have to worry about the ballpark. I mean, Target Field is, I think, top 7 or 8 ballpark in MLB. You've got all that. You have a very good fan base if they believe you're committed to winning. Yeah. They'll show up. So there's a lot of positives. So it could be somebody within the Twin Cities market, could be somebody outside of it. I mean, who knows? I think anything's in play.
All right, so what do you want out of an owner becomes the question. You want somebody, obviously, number one, it's going to keep the team here, right? And that's not going to be a problem because the Twins have a 30-year lease, so they got another, what? When did they start at Target Field? 2010?
Yes.
Okay, so they've got another 15 years or so to go. So that's not a big deal. Secondly, you want somebody that is dedicated. Obviously they have to have the money in the first place, but they can't look at this as just a bottom line business. This is not Marquette Bank, which is what the Pohlads had when they came into this whole thing 40 years ago, right? When Karl Pohlad came in, he was the Marquette Bank guy and
PepsiCo
and all that. And he's added many things since then, or they have, the family has, obviously. So I think you need somebody who looks at this as an opportunity to, enjoy it, not just have it. And I think if you don't enjoy it, what's the point of having it in the first place?
Yeah, I don't want somebody to just add it to their portfolio.
Exactly.
We need somebody to come in here who's engaged, who's a sports fan, who really wants the team to win and succeed. But you also need somebody that the passion is great, who will delegate, hire the right general
manager,
out
of the way,
all the way down to the manager and the rest of your organization, and come up with a culture and a philosophy. And yes, stay out of the way. Robert Kraft comes to mind with the New England Patriots. Once he knew Bill Belichick had it going on and Scott Pioli and that group, he backed off. I don't think he meddled a lot. We see what happens with meddling owners.
Jerry Jones?
Exactly. You called that one. And those who don't. I mean, how many times do you see the Los Angeles Dodgers owner on television? There's a group of them. Magic's
I was just going to say Magic Johnson.
Or how many times now do you see the Steinbrenners on? We used to see George all the time.
That's
now,
true.
George was a good owner. They won. But it was a little bit of an ego thing for George. I don't think Hal Steinbrenner gives a rip if he's on television or not.
He just wants to win.
He does. And it's a little different era with the Yankees.
But they haven't won as much either.
They have not. So you got to find that happy medium, but with no salary cap. And if you get somebody who's rich enough, you can compete with the LA Dodgers, the New York Yankees, Philadelphia, whoever. I mean, look at Texas. Not very good this season, but they won the World Series
last
year. It's a market, the Metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth, similar size to the Twin Cities. Ownership all in. You know who else is all in? Is Milwaukee ownership, Mark Attanasio, except when he's taking sand from beachfront property in Malibu to put it on his own land.
Yeah, shouldn't be doing that.
Now he's in trouble with the California Coastal Commission.
He's got a big scoop that he's taking sand out of there. That's probably not a great idea. So, yeah, no, I mean, I would like to see somebody like the Wilfs come in and do it. And I think that the Wilfs have been good owners for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't blame the Wilfs for the issues that the Vikings have had and not winning in the 15 or so years that they have had the team. They've spent the money. They just haven't been able to get over the top. So hopefully that part will change.
Writing a check on a whim isn't necessarily the solution.
Just ask the New York Mets, prior to this year, they wrote all kinds of checks. Last year was a disaster for the New York Mets.
The key is knowing that if you need to spend it, you will. All right, stick around. We're going to talk some hoops. Richard Coffey will join us here on 10K Takes, your Minnesota Twins ticket.
On any given day in New Ulm, come see what's brewing on any given day in New Ulm.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya? Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes. Basketball season is upon us, both college and, of course, the NBA as well. And joining us now is former Minnesota Timberwolf and Gopher, Richard Coffey. All right, Richard, I'm just going to get this out of the way right away. And no, we're not going to talk about Leo Lewis and King Borealis. But we will talk about the guy that's basically been the king of the Timberwolves for the last 9 years, Karl Anthony Towns. When he was dealt to the Knicks, what was your first reaction when you saw that trade go through?
I was surprised because he's been here for such a long time, and he's been amazing for the community, and he's a really nice guy. But then after my second thought was, I wasn't surprised because I think one thing the Timberwolves have been missing all these years with him here is a little toughness, and I think they get that with Randall. I think Randall brings a lot of, kind of the blue-collar hard work. I think he's going to help spread the floor for Ant as well. Towns wanted to play out top, right, shoot threes, and he was great at what he did, but that also sometimes clogs the floor for their best player to operate, which is Edwards. And I think that's going to create a lot of opportunity for him.
Is Dante DiVincenzo the wild card in this trade? I mean, he plays with some swagger too.
Both of those guys, yes, most definitely. He's a good shooter. He plays defense really well. He plays with an edge. And I really think, that's been missing from the Wolves. So I think those two guys are going to be super helpful with bringing some fire to assist Anthony Edwards in doing what he does.
Do you think that Chris Finch and the folks up top looked at minutes and saw, wait a minute, we have to take Rudy Gobert off the floor when we have Karl Anthony Towns on the floor at the same time because our defensive matchups aren't working at times? I'm not saying it never worked. But do you think that was part of the reasoning that they moved? I know it was money, and I know salary cap comes into this, but do you think that was part of the thinking instead of running it back one more time with that group again this year, the not having Rudy and Karl on the floor at the same time?
For sure, and it worked. Like you said, it worked sometime, but not all the time. And defensively, if, you have a four that's, some teams have these fours that handles the ball really well. They can shoot pull-up jump shots and penetrate to the basket. And sometimes those defensive matchups were tough for the Wolves. Now, they were successful in the season because they had an amazing season. But the ultimate goal, I think, is to, get deeper in the playoffs. And I think this team gives them a better shot at doing that because defensively they should match up a lot better.
Do you think, as they are currently comprised, that this team is as good or better than last year, or did they take a step back because they don't have Cat?
It will all depend on how the new players integrate into the system, right? I think what they had last year is they had chemistry, and chemistry goes a long way in the league. If the new players can integrate in the system, and if Ant, their most valuable player, if he can adapt his game to the new players, and if the new players can adapt their game to Ant, then I think they are set up to have another strong season. The West is tough, man. I mean, the West is tough to advance. It's tough to win games. Night in and night out in the West, you can lose. Even the lower teams in the West are still really, really, really good teams that can beat you night in and night out. And chemistry plays a big role with all of these teams. So if they can find their chemistry with these new players, I think they can have as good of a season as they had last year, if not better.
And to that point, Richard, everybody says it's a process in the NBA. We saw it back in the day with Detroit and then the Chicago Bulls. More recently, Milwaukee, Toronto. Is it fair to say it's NBA titles or bust for Minnesota in the sense that's the next step, let alone winning it? I mean, because if they go backwards, the trade's going to be second guessed.
Well, I'll say this: in today's environment, that process only better last about 10 games before they find out what they're doing. The expectations are high for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they have set that level with their play from last year. They set the anticipation, the hope for the fans. The fans are coming in this year with a lot of hope that this team is going to advance farther than they did last year in the playoff. So, and people these days are impatient about everything. So, no one's interested in the process. We want to see you win games just like you won last year. So you better figure it out really quick. So you can get off to a really good start, because getting off to a slow start in the West, it's going to be hard to make up those games.
Yeah. Is there a piece to this puzzle that you think needs to step up, or that maybe we aren't expecting beyond the two new guys, beyond Julius Randle and DiVincenzo? Do you think of the guys that are still there, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, who might it be?
I still think the point guard position is the most important position on the court for teams. I just do. You have to have a guy that's willing to put himself second, third, sometimes fourth. You have to have the guy that can step up and score the ball when he needs to score the ball, can shoot the jump shot, can penetrate and kick. That position is a position that, if that position plays well, I think the Timberwolves will have a really good chance to have a successful season. We know what those other guys are going to do. Of course, they've gotten better over the summer. If you spend time in the gym over the summer and you're really dedicated to your craft, you're going to get better. But I will say, but those guys' games still going to be similar to what they were last year. With this new roster, I think the point guard play is going to be crucial for the team, because you don't want Anthony Edwards handling the ball. You want him free to roam and move, so he can use his athletic ability and his shooting ability to create shots. You don't want him tired trying to bring the ball up. So that point guard position is going to be crucial.
Do you think Minnesota in year one, with the newbies, Terrence Shannon out of Illinois and then Rob Dillingham out of Kentucky, and by the way, nobody was expecting anything in the draft, and they may have gotten a bounty. Will those guys contribute right away? Do they need to?
I think they don't need to with this roster, but I think it'll be helpful if you can get something out of those guys throughout the year, because let's face it, the 82-game season is a long season. someone's going to get injured. Someone's going to miss some games. Someone's going to sprain an ankle or twist a knee that might be out for 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 games. That's going to happen. And then you do need those young guys to step up. And those guys are exciting to watch. Very athletic. And I think there's going to be a point in the season that they're going to have to at least go in, play well enough where they're not hurting the team.
All right, can't let you out the door without asking you about the Gophers, Gopher men's basketball team in particular. They're on the floor now getting ready for this season. Dawson Garcia is back. I think that obviously that's a huge plus for them. What are your thoughts on this team for this coming season?
I continue to feel a little bad for Ben because they just got to be able to keep players around, right? I mean, they've done a great job at working really hard to build a culture and to build a system over there that players can be successful, but you just got to find a way to keep players around. And, the Big Ten, again, is one of the toughest teams, one of the toughest conference in the United States. So I think if they can get off to a decent start, build some momentum, stay healthy, they'll be able to fight and claw their way through the season, but it's going to be tough for them.
Final thought, Richard. I know you had a chance to get to know Jerry West, the logo, because he was working for the Clippers. When we lost him a couple months ago, your reaction?
Man, I love Jerry. Jerry is a basketball knowledge, full of knowledge and experience. He was an amazing guy, very respectful when he spoke with you, very humble individual, had great things to say about Amir. And really gave Amir an opportunity to really show who he is. And honestly, the conversations that he had with Amir over the years, just, encouraging Amir, telling Amir what to expect and how to get better. I have nothing but great things to say about Jerry, and I was really sad to see him pass away, but he's definitely one of the all-time great legends in the NBA.
For sure. Well, thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'll chat again soon.
For sure. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
He is Richard Coffey, the former Timberwolf, former Gopher, with us here talking hoops on 10,000 Takes. More after this time out.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
You can visit llcoolj.info to understand what the government grants really hit for. You can visit llcoolj.org.com to make sense. Whatever you sell, the government's buying it. You don't need an LLC or an S corporation. We the people. We already pledged allegiance to this nation. It's up to us if the bell toll of freedom rings. That's word from Olivia's child, Sammy's favorite sibling, and I'm out.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
On any given day in New Ulm. Come see what's brewing on any given day in New Ulm.
Continue along, and I asked Richard Coffey about, and you heard what he said about what the expectations should be for the Timberwolves. Are they going to be as good or better this year, or do they take a step back? I mean, first of all, they're going to have to stay healthy. That's for sure. And Karl Anthony Towns missed his share of time over the last few years as well. Let's not forget that. Part of the reason they were able to go as far as they did last year is because Towns was healthy. So keep these guys healthy, and I think that they should be at least a Western Conference Finals type of team, if not better.
Yeah, and I think, look, the bar of expectation should be getting to the NBA Finals at the minimum. Here's a franchise that's never been. I mean, they began in 1989. They haven't even gone to the finals, let alone win that trophy. So you have to have that mindset because you knocked on the door last season. If you believe in the process, which some people think it is, then the next step logically is to get there. Because, hey, Toronto has an NBA title, right? Now they've cratered since then, but they have it. The Milwaukee Bucks got one recently, and they're probably going to rebound this season and be right back in the mix again. Denver, exactly. I think you got to throw it out there, and I believe that's what drives Ant. I don't think there's any doubt. He wants the ring. In fact, he should be motivated by magic because remember when Ant ripped, he said everybody except Michael Jordan wouldn't make it in today's era, and Magic Johnson says, well, I don't listen to guys who don't have any rings. So maybe Ant can get motivated by that.
Well, hopefully Ant is motivated, and again, hopefully he stays healthy because I think if they're able to stay healthy and if they somehow gel this new group, because let's not forget, you're bringing in Julius Randle and DiVincenzo, but they have to figure out how to play with the new teammates that they have. And that's going to be a big factor. And can Michael Conley stay healthy? How much are you going to use Michael Conley? You heard Richard talk about the point guard position. Didn't mention Conley by name, but, he was a key piece last year. But they had to limit his minutes from time to time just because, he's 36, 37 years old now. The legs aren't going to bring you quite as far as they did when he was 27 years old.
No, but that basketball wisdom that he has, and I think he's a steadying force.
Oh,
with the
no
team.
doubt.
And now they have the youngsters like Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon, and I believe they probably have more depth now that they don't have Cat. They will miss Cat in a lot of ways, but as Richard said, maybe they're going to have a little bit more tenacity and toughness. It's all going to shake out right in front of our very eyes, and Cat's going to be in New York City, where they're going to demand that from him. So maybe he's going to ramp up his game in that regard.
Yeah. Okay, two guys that we really didn't talk too much about. First, Naz Reid, who we saw I hate to say explode on the scene, but he got a lot of, important minutes and made some big shots for them last year, especially as a three-point shooter. You talk about Cat's ability to shoot the three. Naz Reid's a pretty good three-point shooter himself, and I like his defense too. I just kind of I think the word tenacity fits Naz Reid. He's just one of those type of players. He's a nasty player on the floor.
And he's loved by the fan base.
No doubt. I got one of his towels.
Yeah, and I walk through downtown Minneapolis and see him on a billboard with a local law firm. So he's a guy that is central to all of this. The other thing I would say is, now the Minnesota Timberwolves, I know they didn't win it last year, but they were a Final Four team. They're the hunted. They are not sneaking up on anybody. And they're tipping off the NBA season, the nightcap on opening night against the LA Lakers out there in Los Angeles. And they got a ton of national TV games. So remember, when you go into somebody else's building now, Ant and company, they're circling that on the calendar. They're promoting the appearance of the Timberwolves.
Anthony Edwards coming to town.
Yep.
All right. We'll have more, including 10,000 takes of the day. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities, with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
10K takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the viewers in St. Paul, Minneapolis, the suburbs, and the exurbs watching on Fox 9 Plus. All right, they're going to find out what your mood is here in a minute or so.
Yes.
But we got to mention the purple.
Yes.
And the NFC North, my goodness, it's a dominant division.
It's a dominant division, and your Vikings, their next home game will be against the Colts. Now, remember the last time the Colts were here? I know I do. I was going to leave at halftime, if you recall.
So they put out the meal.
Well, the meal was pretty good, so I hung in there, and it took me so long to finish eating. The Vikings started making the greatest comeback in NFL history, and I was about to leave. But the Colts are going to be here next Sunday, a week from Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It's an interconference matchup. Thankfully for Matt Ryan, who was the losing quarterback that day, he's now on the CBS studio crew, pregame, halftime, postgame.
Right. I forgot
so I don't think he's going to be in the booth coming back to, well, for him would be a house of horrors, U.S. Bank Stadium.
Oh, boy. That was some kind of day, for sure.
All right, so Demanding Diva, Angry American, Happy Camper, what are you this week on the mood meter?
Well, I think I'm going to move the needle a little bit this week. Not the usual tirade, but so college basketball season just getting underway now. Your Golden Gophers, probably not great expectations, if you will, Robert Redford. But I will say this. If they want to have some great expectations, they might want to look across the border and see who Wisconsin continues to recruit from Minnesota. I'm talking, of course, about the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team, who this year will be led by three prominent Minnesotans. Stephen Crowell, who was there last year, Nolan Winter, who was there last year, and now add to that mix Daniel Freitag, who is a freshman this year for Bucky Badger. He went to Breck and Jefferson, and now he's over there as well. Three guys. And this is nothing new, oh, by the way. Let's not forget that guy by the name of Brad Davison from Maple Grove led the Badgers for a while. And then there's Tyler Wall. And then there's Nate Reavers. And then if you go back even a little ways further, Cameron Taylor from Minneapolis North. So what we need to do is we need to, dare I say it, build a wall. We need to keep these kids at home. Please don't let them go over to Bucky Badgerville, not to Wisconsin, anything but Wisconsin. Let them go. I don't care. Go to UCLA. Nope, can't let them go to UCLA or USC. They're in our conference now. But please, keep them in Minnesota. So, Ben, that's your job. Keep these kids from going over the border, and maybe you will have an NCAA tournament team.
Right. I'm going to see what the mood meter says. Yes. Yeah, Demanding Diva. Block those borders.
Block it up.
That's what he's going to tell Ben Johnson to do. All right.
I just did.
Well, my take of the day is as we tip off yet another NBA season, I just have one request of the association and the commissioner, Adam Silver. Can you put an end to this load of fertilizer known as load management? When Boston and Jason Tatum come to the Twin Cities, or Milwaukee and Giannis, or the LA Lakers and LeBron, or Dallas and Luka, or Denver and the Joker, or pick your superstar. When they come to town, can you make sure they play? And not just here, all around the NBA map, because so often these guys are sitting out games and fans who come from a long ways to watch and fork out a ton of money to be in the arena, they get hosed. Put an end to load management. It is truly an embarrassment for the game, but unfortunately, it's probably not going away.
Yeah, I doubt it.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for tuning us in. This is 10K Takes, your sports picking.